Perhaps the most common concern we address with our clients is helping them ensure they're prepared properly for retirement. What this means for most people is ensuring we have enough money set aside that will never outlive our resources, as well as making the appropriate adjustments to ensure that we can make up for lost time or try to accommodate or adjust based on different circumstances to make sure we're saving enough or put money into the right buckets to help us increase or enhance our savings ability. Now, the reason why this is a common concern just makes sense for us. Recent studies show that 1 in 5 Americans over 50 have absolutely no retirement savings set aside. And obviously, more than half of us worry that they won't have enough to last in retirement. So, compounding on top of this is the worry for every single generation today that there's a consistent rise in cost over the past few years through inflation, but there's also been a lackluster increase in employee earnings and adjustments to pensions and other fixed income sources like Social Security, rents if you're a landlord, and things like that. So, with all that said, I believe it's important that everybody has the knowledge to perform a quick 10-minute checkup for where they are today so they can know how to make the right adjustments going forward. So, what I've got here on the screen is just a very, very rough example that I put together in Excel that we can walk through to figure out, are we on track for retirement or are we not on track for retirement? So let's dive in. First and foremost, if you've been working with me for any point in time, you know that we always go back to cash flow. Cash flow to us drives everything we do in retirement planning, investment planning, financial planning, any kind of planning. Cash flow drives everything. So every retirement plan has to be built on an understanding of how much money is being spent to cover our needs, wants, and wishes. The way we recommend looking at this or doing this is on a monthly basis, since most of our expenses are going to be processed on a monthly basis anyway throughout life. Once we know what our monthly expenses are, we would need to establish specifically how much of that is going to be after tax or before tax. So with the example we're working here, I'm just going to start putting in some numbers as we go. Let's assume our monthly expenses for an average household of 4 right now is around, we'll say, $9,000 a month. I think that from my experience working with a lot of families, 9,000 a month is pretty consistent right now. Let's say for that family, though, their assumed tax rate, and I'm going to use some funny math here, but let's just say combined effective tax rate between federal and state is right around 24%. It's a 24% tax rate. What we have to do when we think about evaluating where we are for retirement and starting out with building out this cash flow number is we have to take our actual net monthly expenses and adjust that for taxes. So right here, we're going to take our monthly expense number and we are going to divide that by 1 minus our tax rate. So divided by 1 minus our tax rate, that's going to basically give us our adjusted expenses. So before tax, what that means is we're looking at about $11,842.11 per month in ongoing expenses. So once we have that number for our tax adjusted expenses, we need to then evaluate how much of those tax adjusted expenses are covered by our pre-tax or gross income sources. So the way I like to phrase that, or the way I've been talking about over the past several months with clients, is we look at what our stable income sources are versus our unstable income sources. Stable income sources would be things like Social Security, pensions, rental income, maybe even some part-time work. So I've got listed out here Social Security, pension, and part-time work. First, we need to add up these total numbers, and then we can look at what is the difference of those total numbers versus our regular monthly income. So based off this number, let's say for a family of a married family or married couple living in retirement, combined Social Security, let's say one spouse brings in $2,500 a month, the other spouse brings in $2,200 a month. That'd be a combined total of about $4,700 a month before taxes. Let's assume there's no pension, and for the sake of this example, no one wants to work part-time in retirement. And off of those numbers, we're just going to add those up. You can already do the math as we're looking at it. That's going to be $4,700 a month of stable income sources to offset our income need. Now, I've already had the formula filling out the difference here, but with the monthly, once we have that established number of what our stable income source total is, we have to subtract our expenses from that income amount. And the reason we do this is we have to figure out how much money a month do we have to make up from other sources. So if stable sources cover $4,700 and unstable sources will need to make up the difference of about $7,100 or $7,200 a month. So we've already got that math. We have that based out on a monthly deficit basis, and then we can adjust that on an annual basis. We just take this number and multiply that by 12. I'm going to pause right here and explain one thing. If we get to this point in the process and we see that our monthly income deficit is a positive number, congratulations. That means you have enough stable income to already cover your needs in retirement. And realistically, all of your investments, if you have investments, are just set aside to cover additional things that come up, more wants, more wishes, or just increase or enhance your lifestyle from what you thought it could be. That's a really, really exciting position to be in. If the number is negative, however, what that means is we actually do have to use our savings and investments to make up the difference for what our standard living needs are. A lot of times for a lot of my clients, that means we're doing a little bit of part-time work. Maybe we do some contract work or side labor. We're finding ways to make a little bit of extra cash to offset the difference here. So the goal for everyone is not necessarily to have a positive deficit. It's more so how can we just have a sustainable path to ensure that our savings are adequate to cover what that negative deficit is. So once we have what that deficit is, though, we need to then adjust that based off an assumed withdrawal rate from our portfolio to make that number a total nest egg amount. Now, the typical withdrawal rate, there's been a ton of studies over the past 30, 35 years to figure out what is a, quote, safe withdrawal rate. I could, build up and tear down each of these studies for various reasons. But let's just say the standard rule of thumb that people talk about is somewhere between 4 and 5% of your portfolio that you can withdraw on a regular basis and not run out of your principal investment. So for the sake of this, we're going to look at a 5% withdrawal rate because I think given where we are today economically, that does make sense for a lot of people. So we're just going to put 5% in here, make that show up. Let's see, 5% is what we're looking for. And once we have that assumed withdrawal rate, we're going to use that number and adjust this annual deficit amount accordingly. Now, the way we do that is we take our required amount, which is this $85,705 on an annual basis, and we divide that by our withdrawal rate, which shows us, in this case, we need a nest egg of about $1.71 million to satisfy at a 5% withdrawal rate, taking out $7,142.11 a month without ever really impacting our principal investment. So if you're doing this process, you're following this math, and you're just doing, again, these are really, really rough numbers, we're looking at about $1.7 million adjusted for taxes to cover our base needs. This is a really, really good starting point in my mind to give us just that thumb in the air kind of, hey, where are we at benchmark? This, of course, is not the end-all be-all answer because everyone's life is different. There's different circumstances, different priorities, things like that. But also, sometimes people have other goals. So I have another section here for other goal funding. Let's say I want to have, this kind of lifestyle where I need to pull out $7,100, $7,200 a month from our investments, but I also want to leave $500,000 for my kids or $100,000 to charity. Well, what I need to do is I need to account for those numbers too at the end of my life. So in that case, let's say it is 500,000 and 100,000. I'm just going to add another 600,000 in this number, 600,000. And we are going to add this up. And actually, I need to adjust this based on a negative real quick. So our adjusted total is going to end up being this right here, which is going to be 2.3 million. Now, again, there's a lot of factors here, a lot of things to evaluate. Even the 5% withdrawal rate is assuming we're not touching this initial principal investment. So we could say if we did start out with 1.7 million, draw 5%, the market does great, we never touch that 1.7, we're just living off the growth and interest, then realistically, this 600,000 would be part of that 1.7 million. So again, there's always variables and perspective we have to look at here. But maybe one of the things we consider is we have a pension that pays $1,800 a month for life. If we add that in, we can see how that changes it. That drops us from 1.71 million down to 1.82, because again, we're reducing how much is required on a regular basis to come out of our investments or savings, and that reduces how much needs to come out of our total portfolio. Maybe we don't have a pension, but we decide we want to work part time, or we have residual income from a business we're selling, or doing an installment sale on real estate or something like that, and that's $3,000 a month. That also further adjusts it. So I share all this to say I know that making sure we don't outlive our money is a primary concern for most investors, most Americans today. And there's so many different variables and factors that come into play with this. So thinking about, the ads you see on TV or the ads you see on social media where they say, oh, is $500,000 enough? Or, oh, is $3 million enough? Who cares? Like, let's figure it out for you, and let's actually establish what is going to be most appropriate for your needs, wants, and wishes based on your personal circumstances. So I hope this has been helpful. Just kind of look at some rough numbers and see some evaluation. Again, a lot of different things that come into play here. The reality is, inflation is a real thing, taxes are a real thing, and whether or not we have tax advantage investments or not, if we want to leave an inheritance or not, if we're going to receive an inheritance or not, these are all factors that come into play for determining what a retirement success or retirement trajectory looks like. If you have any questions on this, reach out to me and let me know. I'd be happy to run some numbers for you or with you, or even share this template if that'd be helpful. Just so you can kind of do your own rough calculations. But again, like from this is it's not just stopping here. It's what are the actions we need to take based on this information to ensure we're on the right path going forward. But reach out to us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help out. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks.